All right, everybody, and welcome back to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And we have finally reached the opening of the 2019 football season and games that actually matter. The Steelers, of course, will open in New England against the hated Patriots, and we'll get into that and all the things the Steelers need to do to win. And apparently my old cat has shown up down here and is going to meow through the entire freaking show. Anyway,
guest appearance.
Oh, a guest appearance. I know. The only nice thing here is I don't have to pay him. Ian is here from the friendly confines of Pittsburgh. Ian, how's it going tonight?
Very good. Very good. Sitting here watching the Bears and the Packers not know how to play offense, hoping that continues with New England since, both New England and the Rams forgot how to play offense in the Super Bowl. Maybe that trend will just continue, for the Patriots this weekend as well.
That is an excellent point. It is. I too have the Packers-Bears season opening game on. And, it's a slugfest right now, 7-3 Packers leading. And, of course, by the time many of you hear this, it'll be over. But definitely offensively challenged. Ben, how are things in your neck of the woods this evening?
Just dandy.
Just dandy. Well, we're all safe and sound. We want to wish everybody along the East Coast the best and hang in there as the hurricane continues to kind of make its way up the eastern seaboard. And definitely a shout out to Steeler fans that are in the Bahamas. My God, it is unbelievable the footage that is coming in from there. And, obviously those things put things in perspective very, very quickly. Before we jump into the Steelers and the Patriots and then talk a little bit about our predictions for the Steelers season tonight, I would be really, really, really remiss if I didn't mention what in the world is going on with former Steeler Antonio Brown. Ian, could you, if somebody would have written this all out 12 months ago and given it to you and said, this is everything I see happening with Antonio Brown, would you have just laughed and said, you can't make this up?
It probably would have won the Academy Award for Best Picture just because of how ludicrous it was of a story. Or, maybe the Raspberry or Cranberry or whatever they call the award for worst movie because it's just
the
terrible.
Razzies. Yeah.
The Razzies, there you go. Yeah, it's hilarious and dumb and stupid and everything all at the same time. It's a train wreck that you can't look away from, somewhat because we're personally tied to it. Him being a former Steeler, but also because 3 or 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, if you would have said Kevin Colbert traded away Antonio Brown for a 3rd and a 5th round pick and Martavis Bryant for a 3rd round pick, everyone would have said you were crazy. But here we are 3 years later. We got 2/3 and a 5th for those two guys. Martavis Bryant played 8 games for Oakland, didn't score a touchdown, and is now suspended indefinitely. And news came out today that Antonio Brown might get suspended by his team for not showing up, which must be some kind of record to get suspended by 2 different organizations in consecutive games for not showing up to practice. So, it's been a banner week for Tigers don't change their stripes kind of news, and it is what it is.
I'm gonna correct you there, Ian. He wasn't suspended by the Steelers. He was benched. He was still paid for the week.
Okay, benched, yes.
Okay. Well, yeah. He should have been suspended. He should have been suspended, but he wasn't. They were trying to preserve some sense of, I don't know what the hell they were trying to preserve, like minimize the drama because they were hoping to get to the playoffs the next week and they didn't want a giant distraction. So they decided not to suspend him, which I understand, but there was a lot of drama in that locker room the last 4 weeks of the season. And it, most of it centered around Antonio Brown, and it finally came to a head then. Anyway, I'm just going to say one thing real quickly, and I'm just going to reiterate something I said when this all started months ago, back January, February, March. Antonio Brown is a grown-ass man. He is not a marionette. He is not someone whose strings were pulled by Mike Tomlin or Ben Roethlisberger. It was not their fault that he did any of the crap he did in Pittsburgh. He's still doing it. He's still doing AB's still going to AB. And now nobody can say, oh, it's all because of the atmosphere in Pittsburgh and those guys and Ben's leadership style. So, enjoy your crow. Have a good time with that. And I'm done.
Yeah. I'm not going to reiterate much more. I think it's absolutely fascinating the fall of this guy in terms of off the field. And, as we've said before, it's incredible that he could be in a position where he could lose the $30 million. He could actually just not even ever play for Oakland. But I know people aren't here to hear much more about Antonio freaking Brown. So it is now time to start talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers 2019 season, and they will open in Foxborough against the Patriots. Ian, last time we saw the Patriots, we defeated them. I believe it was 17-10, not 19-17, as Ed Bouchette said recently. Is that correct?
It was 17-10. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Correct. Yeah. Just basic premise ideas here. What are you looking for in week one? Because we've been here before, week one in New England. What are you looking for this time around?
Well, to talk back to the end of last season, we saw a couple teams, namely the Chargers and the Saints, have success by moving their number one receiver into the slot and getting matchups against linebackers. Both Keenan Allen and Michael Thomas did that with success, as much as we hate to mention it. So I'd say the number one thing I'm looking for from a schematic standpoint is just not having a linebacker on Julian Edelman who will work out of the slot a lot, especially if both Josh Gordon and Demaryius Thomas are playing for New England.
Yeah, and
so that's probably the number one thing is just don't cover their best receiver with a linebacker.
And as of right now, Demaryius Thomas, real quick, has a hamstring and I think was limited today, if I'm not mistaken, on the practice report. But I mean that's obviously a huge thing from the defensive side, and we'll talk extensively about that as we get going. Ben, what are just some big idea things that you're looking for this week as we open up in New England?
The most important thing is that they mix coverages again. That was what they were. I mean, in my mind, I have faith that the front will do its job and pressure Brady, but they need that extra second that they got the last time because they were mixing the coverages constantly. And it's not like they were confusing Brady. He just didn't know exactly what to expect until he snapped the ball. So he didn't have a plan right away. And they mixed sudden bump and run along with physical press and zone. And they disguised it pretty well too. And to me, the coverage was the thing that was key the last time because it was different. Typically what they always do is run zone versus Brady. He loves it. He eats it up.
Oh yeah.
He knows where the soft spot in the zone is going to be before the ball's even snapped. And that's where he's going with the ball. And his receiver damn well better see the same thing because if he doesn't, Brady won't throw him the ball again. I mean, he's the enforcer, and not just the general. He's the enforcer on offense. So it's like, you better know your stuff because otherwise Brady's not giving you the ball. He'll starve you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just want to see them do that again. They were successful doing that the last time, and we need to see that again to give the defensive front that extra second or so to get to Brady. And even if they don't sack him, hit him. Because Tom Brady does not like being hit. He does not like it at all.
Nope.
And when you do it, it takes him out of his rhythm, and that's where you need him to be in order to win that game. If you only give up 10 points again, you got a shot. You got a real shot at winning, especially in Foxborough. If you give up 17 or 21, it might be more complicated because the Patriots are pretty good on defense too.
Yeah. That's always an overlooked aspect, I think, of the Patriots. That we focus so much on Brady and formerly Gronk and stuff that we do forget that they are almost always quite sound defensively. Let me ask you this: I read a little bit about this today, saw some rumblings and stuff. How much do you put into the fact that our defensive line should have some success, because New England's offensive line, for lack of a better term, it's been pretty much patchwork over the last week to 10 days. I mean, is there any credibility to that?
Some, but I think it has more to do with these guys just working out kinks in week one. And a lot of teams are, they're trying to figure out who's going to be where, how they're going to work together. It's all just like week one stuff. That's why when a lot of coaches lose games in week one, they just go, it's week one. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not angry. It's week one. We didn't get enough of our stuff done. If Belichick loses week one, he's not going to be pissed. He's not going to be happy, obviously, but he's not going to be like furious or disappointed. He's just going to be like, oh, well, we didn't get enough done, in these areas. Looking at, and I don't have a Patriots. Oh, there it is. So practice report for the Pats today was tight end Matt Lacoste limited, Demaryius Thomas limited, hamstring, and Obi Melifonwu, the safety. We were all a little, I don't know if infatuated is the right word.
We liked him
when he was coming out in the draft, but we liked him. Yeah. He's also limited with an ankle. So their O-line is relatively healthy. They're just not clicking on all cylinders yet.
It's not a cohesive unit.
Yeah, it's a little unsettled. That would be the way I would put it. It's a little unsettled, but those guys all know each other. You know what I mean? It's not like they're going to come in and they're a bunch of strangers. And our D-line is just going to have a field day. I think the D-line is going to have a good day because the D-line is talented. The D-line is the strength of this team right now. And it's certainly the strength of the defensive unit, and will be until the linebackers prove that they can look like Steelers linebackers, historically. And last year they did not do that. So the onus is on them this year to go out and get it done.
Yeah, and I'm fascinated by that. I'm excited to see Bush. And I know people are kind of upset. It doesn't look like he's going to start. Blah blah blah. And the kid's going to play.
You know what, man?
The kid is going to play.
Tomlin says a lot of things.
He does.
I'm not reading much into that. Tomlin's just saying, look, I'm gonna be aware of how much he plays because of the size of the moment and the fact that he's a rookie. So I think what he's saying really is he's just going to put him on a shorter leash than he will a vet.
Yeah, absolutely, which I think we would expect in almost every situation similar to this. Ian, if we go over to the Steelers on offense, last year one of the plays that they were really, really successful with, and of course, fans will remember that James Conner did not play in that game, and the load turned over to Jalen Samuels. He had a field day on the counter. Okay, I don't know how many total yards he ended up with just on that one particular type of play. But, Bill Belichick is going to be prepared for that. He's not going to get burned twice on it. So what do the Steelers do? Do they go back to the idea of, well, I'm going to do it and make you stop it, or I'm just going to figure out different ways to do it? If you're the Steelers, how do you approach that?
Well, I think having both Connor and Samuels, you can kind of sprinkle them both in and mix it up and play matchups a little bit more will help. The Steelers were somewhat limited in the personnel they were able to deploy the first time against New England, just because, as you mentioned, James Conner wasn't there. Now they'll have that option. The last podcast we had, we talked a little bit about them potentially using a pony backfield with both Conner and Samuels in it, which, could get you into some matchup problems for the defense, I'll say, with two running backs that are both capable receivers. Jalen Samuels, I know he's a little deficient in the blocking department still, but reminds me a lot of Moelde Moore. He's a guy who could give you a big game from time to time. He's much better running outside than he is inside. He's not a between the tackles kind of runner, but he's also a very capable receiver. It can help you out in that way too. So he's not as good of a blocker as Mwelde Moore was, but still kind of a similar type player. Not your traditional third down scat back like a Darren Sproles, but more of a Mwelde Moore that could give you 20 carries a game like he did against New England the first time around. The other thing is that the Steelers were able to have some success throwing the ball over the middle of the field in that game too, both to slot receivers to tight ends. So that's a place we can exploit because New England does have two very good corners in Gilmore and McCourty. So they are very capable of taking away things on the outside. I can almost guarantee they're going to double Juju on the outside and basically make someone else beat them, which is what Belichick does best. He makes he takes away your number one weapon and makes someone else beat you.
Yeah, right. That's where I was going to go with it. The last time what Belichick tried to do is take away AB, and he almost challenged the Steelers. He dared them to run the ball with a lot of 7-man fronts. And so they went, all right. Okay. If you're going to keep stacking them up this way, we're just going to keep running it till you can stop it. If the Pats don't come out with that same kind of a look, I wouldn't expect to see a lot of running plays like that. And I know there are going to be a lot of fans if the running game doesn't have success right out of the gate, especially going, why aren't you running it with Samuels like the last time? Why aren't you? Blah, blah, blah. Because the look is different.
Yes. And it's an entirely different season with different personnel. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, the offensive line is still the same, and the offensive line is what made that happen last year. Yeah. So, again, Steelers lines, very talented, and I think that's why they'll have success, because they are very talented as a group. Now, I think that, like I said before, the Pats' defense is pretty good, especially in the defensive backfield. So I don't expect Ben to have a heyday throwing the ball on Sunday night, but I do expect him to be effective and have time to get the ball where he needs to get it. And I agree with Ian, throwing it over the middle is probably going to be a lot more appealing as an option than throwing outside the numbers. Like I said a minute ago, if they keep giving it, if they show them a 7-man front and there's an option to audible to a run play or a counter or even just bashing it straight up the middle, I see that happening. I do.
Well, let me address the throwing over the middle thing, because obviously that can be a tight end, that can be a wide receiver, that can be a running back, and so on. But let me go to the tight ends who would most frequently be featured there. With the weak depth, Ian, I'll throw this to you first. With the weak depth that the Steelers have there, do you assume that they're just going to kind of scrap any multiple tight end sets, or if they do, they'll use them minimally and it'll be basically Vance McDonald and your typical 12 personnel here, 11 personnel. What do you see happening with the issues with the tight ends?
I think using 11 personnel is definitely the way to go, also because that forces New England into spreading out their defense, bringing in a nickel package, not stacking the box. And that was where Samuels had a lot of success running the ball, was out of 11 personnel last year, where you only had one tight end, one running back on the field, got the wide receivers out wide, spread New England's defense a little bit, and he was able to hit the seams a little bit more.
Yes.
That being said, I actually think that if we see a multiple tight end look on the field, there's a very good possibility that we see someone like Chuks Okorafor in there as your extra blocking tight end rather than Zach Gentry. Especially Gentry. Grimble will get a helmet. He'll probably play a handful of snaps here and there. But I think they're going to use basically a sixth offensive lineman as a tight end.
Are you trying to imply that
running downs?
Are you trying to imply that Gentry can't block?
I think we've pretty much stated that profusely multiple times. I don't think there's much implication there.
You go that route, but Vance McDonald actually can block.
Yes, he can.
He can, yes.
That versatility makes him more of a threat in my mind if you're an 11 personnel. If you're not, well, then it changes things.
You are listening to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And right now you can get the brand new P is for Pittsburgh shirt from the guys at 26. And $8 from every single shirt sold goes this time around to the American Cancer Society of Pennsylvania. So obviously a worthwhile cause that everybody listening is fully aware of and understands the need for cancer research and monies towards that and everything else. So please consider getting yourself a very comfortable and stylish shirt and doing some good stuff at the same time. Ben, did you want to address further the tight end thing, or are you pretty well set with what they're heading into? Because I know you, like all of us, we've wanted to see some action there, but the last 2 or 3 weeks, you've been pretty resigned to the fact that you don't think anything's going to happen there, right?
No, nothing's going to happen. Although they did try to claim,
Ricky
Seals-Jones from the Cardinals. So they obviously thought there was an upgrade to be had for Zach Gentry, but they're not going out and trying to sign anybody that was cut that's a free agent, which I don't entirely understand. So they either have decided that it's not worth investing in the third team tight end, the kind of money that the guys that are free agents, that are street free agents, are going to command, or they've decided those guys just either aren't that reliable or aren't that good. They just don't have the value the Steelers want at that position. So, yeah, I was resigned to it because for whatever reason, James Daniel likes Zach Gentry. I think he's obviously broken into the medical marijuana because that's what's legal in Western Pennsylvania. But, he likes him. And there are some rumblings that Ben, he likes having that tall red zone target too.
Yeah.
So, but the guy has suspect hands and he can't block a lick and he can't run routes well. And he doesn't do anything well as far as, he's like a very, 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 very poor man's Matt Spaeth, because at least Spaeth could block.
He could.
So I don't know. I don't see the attraction myself, but I don't see him doing anything there.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much in that boat now myself. Ian, there is some discussion that Sean Davis might be injured, and even if he does play, he's not going to be 100%.
Cam Kelly season.
Yeah, here we go with Cam Kelly, a guy that a lot of us were rooting for to make this team, because everything that we had backing up Sean Davis was, for lack of a better term, it wasn't desirable. Okay,
terrible.
Yeah, Jordan Dangerfield, you're a wonderfly hard worker, guy, but no, we can't have you back there. Marcus Allen, you're on the practice squad. We needed somebody that had some capabilities, and okay, here comes Cam Kelly, this guy that played for the San Diego Fleet of the AAF and played at San Diego State. I've been impressed with him. I think he does a nice job. I've been really impressed with him up around the line of scrimmage. I don't know if you guys noticed the few tackles that he's made up there. So where are you, Ian, with your level of confidence on him if it's got to be Cam Kelly?
I think at least in the preseason, Kelly kind of proved himself to be capable of being out there and deserving of the spot. That being said, Tom Brady is going to go after whatever the weak point is on the defense. If it's a first-time starter in Cam Kelly, he's going after him. If it's, Devin Bush playing in his first NFL game, maybe getting a communication a split second late or reacting a split second too slow, he's going to go after him. Brady doesn't discriminate in who he throws the ball to. He throws the ball to the open guy. It may seem like he's out there targeting Julian Edelman and James White all the time, but that's because those are the guys who are open. And they do things to scheme guys open probably better than any other team in the league, except maybe New Orleans does well to scheme guys open offensively. So it's just one of those things where Brady's going to go after your weak points. He went after Anthony Smith in 2007 when Anthony Smith said their streak was going to be over. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but
you have to.
Past is precedent. It's Brady's going to go after the weak points on your defense. He's going to take shots deep, especially in New England. He's going to take shots deep, and you just have to be ready for that.
Yeah. Oh, how do I, Ben? Where are you on Cam Kelly? I mean, does his presence and the lack of Sean Davis, does that impact what the Steelers wanted to do as far as, they liked that 3 safety look a little during the preseason and in some training camp stuff? I mean, what is this going to do if it is Cam Kelly?
Not a lot. I think that Kelly, watching him, he looks to me like a free safety only, where with Sean Davis, you get a little more versatility, but you also have versatility with Mark Barron, where he can play dime backer, but he can also play strong safety. So if you need a 3 safety look, you can leave Barron out there and leave him in the box, and you can play Edmonds a little deeper, and then Cam Kelly is a free, and it works out. It's okay, and I don't think that Edmonds is great in coverage. I think he has some mental lapses sometimes and peeks into the backfield rather than staying with the receiver. But he's not awful either, and he's got really great makeup speed if he's in a position to make a play, to taunt the quarterback into throwing it at a guy that maybe has half a step. He's actually got the makeup speed to catch up and make a play on the ball. So I think we're okay there, even if Davis doesn't play. But I'd like to see a little more of Cam Kelly, but I'm not overly concerned there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you're starting a new guy, I think there's some level of concern, and I think it rises a little bit when it's Tom Brady on the other side. But I feel like they've had enough time. I feel like the prep is there. It's week 1. If this were going into a playoff game, I think I'd be really, really concerned. But I'm not going to go to that extent just yet. Ian, Chris Boswell had a very nice training camp and a very nice preseason. He did everything he needed to do to win his job back. Do you feel pretty good about him kicking on Sunday night, getting his old form back?
I am very hopeful. I will still be extremely nervous anytime he walks up to the ball, but I'm hopeful that he worked through whatever nagging injury he had. I think he had off-season surgery, so he had an injury that he was trying to play through last year. Obviously, he was pushing all of his kicks. A lot of them were being pushed right. This year it didn't seem at all, in the preseason at least, like he was pushing his kicks. He was hitting a lot of them straight down the middle. So I think, that's a good sign. I didn't see any signs of him pushing kicks this year. And it's, if he's got the mechanics back, then we all know he has the intestinal fortitude to be a very good, very clutch kicker. So he's got it in him. He's done it before. I'm hopeful, but until I actually see him do it in the regular season in those big moments, I'm probably going to be a little bit skeptical.
It is fascinating how far we've come, because when Chris Boswell used to step up to a kick, I don't think many of us even thought twice about it, and now I think that many of us get these heart palpitations, and obviously we want him to make every kick and we want him to be successful, and because it means so much for us and the team. But man, I'm telling you, until he pounds a regular season kick through, I don't know that I'm going to settle down any here. Ben, as we kind of wind things down, and I want to get your full season predictions, both of you too, for the Steelers and the NFL and stuff. But as far as Sunday night, I'm going to tell you right now, the Steelers win. What guy has a big game for the Steelers to get them that W? What's that one guy that will be talked about on Monday morning?
I'm going to say 2 guys, TJ Watt and Javon Hargrave. Wow. I think that Hargrave, when he gets in the passing defense, is going to be a guy who's going to pressure Brady, who's going to he's going to win those one-on-one matchups, and he's going to be in Brady's face, and Brady does not like that.
Nope.
And then Watt from the outside is coming, and he looks better this year. And he practiced and he played in all the way through the preseason this year, where last year he kind of had a slow start because he missed a lot of time early on. And he missed some this year at the very beginning. The pulled hamstring, strained, tweaked, whatever you want to call it. He felt some hamstring tightness in the conditioning run, so they put him on PUP for what, 5 days?
It was roughly a week. Yeah.
So I guess he missed some time, but he looks better to me. It looks cleaner. It's more crisp. It looks like he's got a plan. There aren't a lot of wasted movements, where when he was a rookie, there were a lot of wasted movements. He was just a high motor guy,
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So those are the two guys I'm looking forward to seeing. And then I think, on defense, I think Ben, based upon what he's saying and acting and doing, he is really happy right now with where this team
seems
is.
To be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And Ian, I would give you the same question. You wake up Monday morning, you're smiling because the Steelers have opened with a big win over New England. Who's that one guy you're going to be, reading about?
Well, Ben partially took my answer because I was going to say TJ Watt. So I'll partially piggyback on him and say Stephon Tuitt, because we all know what Cam Hayward's going to bring. But I think Ben and I are kind of in agreement that someone else on that defensive line has to step up and get interior pressure up the middle. So whether that's Tuitt, whether that's Hargrave, somebody's got to do it. And if the Steelers are going to be successful in slowing down the Patriots offense, they have to get interior pressure on Brady. On the other side of the ball, since we all talked about defensive players, I'm just going to say kind of whoever the number 2 option is in the receiving game, whether that's Dante Moncrief, who really didn't do a whole lot in the preseason, whether that's James Washington, who did a lot in the preseason, but a lot of it was with Mason Rudolph being quarterback, whether that's Vance McDonald, somebody's got to step up because they're going to try and take Juju away. So whoever that number 2 option is, and maybe it's even Ryan Switzer over the middle, having, one of those 7-8 catch 90-yard games where all he does is just pick up first downs, get 8-9 yards of catch, but it moves the chains and gets things done. So whoever the number 2 option becomes on offense, at least for this game, and it may change game to game, but I think that's got to be the story on offense, and someone on the defensive line has to step up because, like Ben said, Watt's coming from the outside. Watt looks awesome, but they need that interior pressure too.
Yeah, and as far as that secondary receiver, my guy offensively, I think it's Vance McDonald this week. I think number 1, he's got to be a good blocker. He's got to be able to set the edge out there, so that Connor can get around him if necessary, or get on his inside, and he can get that defensive end or linebacker turned outside. And then, of course, obviously receiving. I think he's become a bit of a security blanket for Ben, and I think that has to continue. I would love to see him have kind of that 6, 7, 8 catch 70, 80 yard game. And defensively, I'm just going to flip it from you guys, and I'm going to say it. I can't believe I'm saying it. Bud Dupree has looked pretty good in the preseason. He's looked better than we thought. I know. I can't believe I'm saying it.
You know what, Bud? When has Bud ever had a bad preseason?
Well, no, I get it, and I am doing the whole optimistic thing here.
Yeah.
I am hopeful. What the biggest thing I saw with Bud this preseason, I didn't see the huge arc that looked like he was going out and around traffic,
Really?
in a parking lot. I didn't see that as much.
I did, but I did see that. But the thing I did see that he added was an inside move where he's setting guys up for the wide set. And as soon as they commit to that wide set, he's cutting inside. He's using his quickness, which is great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's laudable. And I appreciate the fact that Bud is finally doing that. But I need to see a lot more before I believe in Bud Dupree.
Oh, absolutely. And believe me, even if he does play well, that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and start banging the drum to try to re-sign him in 2020. I'm just simply saying I think it's now or never. If he doesn't do it now, then it's definitely never. Period. Under report.
Remember Bud Dupree last year, week 1, the game he had? And everybody going, oh, my God, Bud Dupree, and he's going to have
Cleveland.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm hopeful. I'm doing my best to send good vibes to Bud Dupree. That's what I'm here for.
Well, I'm here to urinate on your parade.
Oh, man, just come on, Bud. Just get me some sacks, man. Maybe a pick. I don't know. All right. It is now season prediction time. Ian, where do you have the Pittsburgh Steelers finishing the 2019 season? This, on paper, is a pretty daunting schedule, but you've had a chance to look at it. Where are you?
I'm going to say 10-6. There's definitely some losses on there. There's some good teams, but there's also some travel dates to the West Coast, which I've talked ad nauseum about and written about every year, and will continue to write about every year until it changes, that Mike Tomlin has the most bizarre splits based on time zones, where he's won 70+% of his games in the Eastern time zone, whether that's home or away. But then when he goes out west, it's just absolutely atrocious, and it's like nothing we've ever seen before in Steelers history. So I would not at all be surprised to see us lose games to weird West Coast teams that we are clearly better than, like San Francisco. I have a hard time seeing us losing in Arizona, but you never know. And we've got a trip to Los Angeles as well against a very good Chargers team. So I'm going to say 10-6.
Okay, 10-6, and will that be good enough to win the AFC North for you?
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
I think I really struggle to see either Cleveland or Baltimore as a team better than 9-7. I think they're both in that sort of 9-7, 8-8, 7-9 type range. Cincinnati is absolutely awful. So that's 2 wins for everybody right there.
You think so?
But
you think so?
We would hope. Yeah. That being said, I really, everyone's all hyped up on Cleveland. They only beat one team with a winning record last year. Baker choked in the biggest moment of the season. And maybe I'm a little bitter because we needed him to step up so that we can make the playoffs. But
be
still,
bitter. I get it. Yeah.
Everyone's hyping the Browns because they're good on paper. It came out today that Odell Beckham still has hip issues and can't run at full speed. So, I really don't see them as better than 9-7. I don't think the Ravens are better than 9-7. Maybe we have all 3 teams finish right in that 9-7 to 8-8 type range, which is extremely possible. But I think 10 wins will be enough to win the division.
Okay, and Ben, I'm going to flip it over to you. What do you got? The 2019 Steelers. What do you got them finishing at?
Well, I had 10-6, and then Andrew Luck decided he was going to retire, and I was like, okay, that's another win, 11-5, and I'm rolling with that. And I agree with Ian. There are going to be some disappointing losses. That game in San Francisco is actually the first game I've circled as a loss, and I predicted earlier this week the Steelers are going to win their first 2 games and then, lay an egg in San Francisco and lose to an 0-2 team, and the fans will all turn on them, and it'll be awful, for us. We're going, that's great, predictable. But, that's kind of what I see. And it's just, I look at their history, and that Chargers game, that worries me a lot too. Yeah. Arizona doesn't worry me as much. I don't know why. They tend to play better there, and it's also a December game. Usually by December, they're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah,
so
true.
I'm not super concerned about that one. But
I think because Arizona's in a dome, and they always play well in domes, whereas like Oakland has that shitty grass, San Francisco has that weird field. Seattle's just a tough place to play. So I think it's because Arizona's in a dome that they play well there.
Yeah. Anyway, there are going to be some games that we're going to be pissed about that they're going to lose. They'll probably split with the Ravens again because they always flip and do, which pisses us all off every damn year. I'm going with 11-5. They win the division. I do not buy Cleveland as a playoff team this year. I know a lot of people do. I think you guys are nuts. I think they're a year away. I think Baker Mayfield needs to eat a little crow, and I don't think he's going to. I think that he believes that if he manufactures enough confidence that he can make the people around him confident. And no, all they're going to do is just stop believing in him, because no matter what, in the face of adversity, he's we're going to stomp you. Yeah, you got your butts kicked last week. Knock it off. It's just false bravado. Eventually that wears off. It runs thin, and you lose teammates. You got to talk about the things you're doing right and the things you're doing wrong, and improve upon those things week over week. I don't think he's a good leader yet. So that's where I'm at with them. The Ravens are a little scary because they're going to be new. Defensively, it's still going to be that same defense we've seen over and over again. New faces in certain spots, but that same defense we've seen over and over again. Offensively, it could be anything. I don't know what they're going to run. The quarterback option, it could be anything.
Yeah.
I'm really wondering what the deal with that's going to be, and how to scheme against it. We've certainly got fast players on defense that can chase down a guy like Lamar Jackson, but he's a really good athlete and he's bulked up.
He has.
Fortunately for us, Lamar Jackson is still a terrible passer. He's horribly inaccurate. So he'll probably cough up a few picks over the course of the year, but no matter what, it's always a tough place to play, and it's always a tough game. And I think we're probably going to split with them. Cincinnati, I agree with Ian. There's still no love lost between the two teams, and they suck. They are just awful. Welcome to drafting the top 5 again every year, because that's where you're going to be this year.
Achilles Smith, Kajana Carter.
All over
again. Yeah, I'm right in the same ballpark with you guys. I got 10-6. I think they win the division. Ian couldn't have said it better. I think you're looking at Cleveland and Baltimore. I think anywhere from really 7-9, 9-7, somewhere in there would be the high end. I do not ultimately see the Steelers getting to the Super Bowl. I think there's just too much talent, in a couple other areas of the AFC.
Agreed.
But you just never know. It's all about getting into the tournament, as they say, and I think the Steelers will do that. And I like the direction of this team. I like what's going on, and I'm very excited to see what happens. I mean, just because there's less drama doesn't automatically mean W's, but it sure does go a long way towards helping. So enjoy the game on Sunday night, everybody. Hopefully we end up with a big W in New England. It would be a tremendous way to start the season, to give the defending champs a big old L there. So that's it for tonight. And thank you to Ian, thank you to Ben, and thank you, of course, to 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh for sponsoring us. And hey, go Steelers!